Hey everyone, it's CJ, and welcome to our first episode of Objection Crime Chatter, where we will be covering some true crime cases and echo. Oh, sorry, I had YouTube up. Sorry about that, guys. Um, we'll be covering true crime stuff, and today's episode is going to be on the Kohberger plea and what's going on in Moscow. I have today with me Don't Fuck with Justice, who's on X. What should we call you on here?
Yeah, that's fine.
Don't fuck with justice, DFJ.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we got
but yeah.
DFJ in the house, and she's going to be helping us go through what's going on in Moscow. The show that we have for you guys today, we're going to be discussing the Goncalves family. It was really touching yesterday to me when I saw what they had to say. And I've been covering this case from the very beginning. Well, not here, but I've been looking into the case since the very beginning. And I wanted to cover it because even though I'm kind of trying to steer clear from true crime, it brought me back because I have a couple cases that I never really got closure on that were going to trial and stuff. And so I figured I'm going to be covering, what's going on with this as well as some other cases. Um, and just, we're going to be covering a lot of stuff with what is going on with the plea deal, what it means, what's going to happen with the families. We're going to talk a lot about the town of Moscow, the university, and all that stuff. So thank you, chat, for being here. And thank you, DFJ. Yay.
Thanks
Okay.
for
So,
having me.
yeah, no problem. So why don't you let the audience know how you got into the case? Because I know everybody kind of came into this. This was everyone's Roman Empire circa 2022. This
Yeah.
became everyone's Roman Empire, and I know you had said this is kind of like our OJ. So how did you kind of or our generation's OJ? How did you get into it?
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, when the plane went from Pennsylvania to Idaho, that was, and everyone was watching it, that felt like the OJ Bronco part of it. But no, how I got into it was with the story actually about Buddy that came out right after the murders happened. I don't know if you have that the slide for that, but basically there was that dog Buddy that a week before the murders and less than 3 miles away was murdered. And or can we not say that on YouTube? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not monetized. You can say it.
Oh.
Say it.
um and basically he was like skinned, and just like it was horrific. And they left the his collar there for the owners, and they had gone to the cops, and these like cops, obviously they didn't do anything. And so after the murders happened, this story kind of like got bigger and got more attention, and everyone's like, well, this obviously has to do with the murders. I mean, otherwise there's like two like complete psychos running around this town. Like, this was clearly a warm-up killing, and the cops did not take it seriously. And so I kind of got into this. Yes, the murder was horrific, but actually what got me in was Buddy. And then once I was in, I was just stuck to it, because I was like, we have to see justice for these families, these kids, for Buddy. And then I kind of made like, yeah, Citizen has it, like all these slides. I kind of went through like my history with the case, because then things just started getting crazy with it. Like, the press releases were coming out and they had a lot of inconsistencies. So I don't know if probably no one here followed me back then, but I post them every day, and almost all of them I was posting corrections to them.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to have you on because you really did deep dive and you were active on X. I didn't have social media back then, so I was old school. I don't know if y'all know about websleuths.com. Um, that's like an old school kind of Reddit style kind of um, yeah, it's before web sleuths became cool. That's where the web sleuths went to sleuth. So that's where I kind of sleuthed out the case because if y'all remember, everybody was trying to figure out what was going on. There was this horrific murder, murder on the loose, and um, it became something that everybody was sleuthing. And yeah, Buddy the dog was one of the ones that one of the stories that came out of it. And it says you got almost 35,000 signatures for justice for Buddy.
Yeah, and I mean, it didn't matter because that's the whole thing. Like, with this case from the beginning, I feel like they just didn't take things seriously. And like with the murders, I don't know how many people know, but like this was the first homicide in Moscow for 7 years. So like they did not have a lot of experience, or I just don't think that these people were ready. Like the police force was ready to handle something like this. And yeah, so they did not care about the dog at all. But with the murders, it had been like 7 years. They didn't really, I don't know, they just didn't seem prepared. And so they didn't listen. Like when people came, they're like, oh, this is probably connected to what happened with the dog. Maybe you should go back also and look at like those security camera footage for that, or like, I don't know.
So did they ever say like the case was just closed, like, or is that still an open case? Is there
They
still
did. They
is there
closed it
still a
before.
justice for Betty, or
They closed it before there was a suspect in the killings. Which is crazy to me because like there's no way they could have closed that case. Like they didn't even have the GPS data yet for Kohberger. And now that they have it, I just like for like the love of God, I hope that they do not like grant this plea deal until, they provide the GPS data that goes back 1 week earlier to see if he was around for Buddy's killing, because I swear he killed Buddy. Like it's so obvious.
okay? So justice for Buddy. We're going to talk a little bit more about Buddy in later on in the segment when we're talking about the police, Moscow police's, the way they handled the investigation and stuff, and what's going on with the police force there. But we're going to get right into the plea deal of Kohberger, and I wanted to share. I'm gonna play this quick video here. Hold on 1 second. Let me share that tab. Here we go. Oh, I have to remove the picture. Sorry about that, guys. Remember, I'm still learning. Okay, here we go. So let me just go ahead and play this for y'all. Let me make it bigger. Okay.
On the families, friends, roommates of the victims without any certainty of an outcome. There would be some measure of finality if the defendant admits he's guilty of murders. There is only one realistic way to get this type of closure, and that is through his entry of a guilty plea. So basically, they were saying if the trial moved forward and he was pleading not guilty, they would have never gotten the satisfaction of a guilty plea. This is interesting. They said that sadly, as many have experienced, there are individuals out there who believe in conspiracy theories about this case, believe the defendant to be innocent or support the defendant in some way. We know the sentiments of support of defendants have been unbearable. We can only hope that at least some of these people will turn their attention to other matters if the defendant takes responsibility and admits to his heinous crimes by pleading guilty. And the last reason they gave, the state believes the death penalty is warranted in this case. We've never wavered in that. However, they talked about how people can remain on death row for 30 or 40 years, which has happened in Idaho. There would be appeals, and that this would just drag on and on for the families. Ashley?
Okay, so as you saw there, he stated that the prosecution had sent a letter to
The families?
to the families, stating that, and I'm going to bring up the exact wording because I think I had the screenshot here. Stating that, oh no, I have the web page up. Stating that one of the reasons that he gave was the conspiracy theorists that were defending the defendant, and I understand how that could possibly hurt the families because people are speculating, but at the same time, we do live in a country where every suspect is innocent until proven guilty, and a lot of these people, I mean, there were the Kohbergers who took it a little far, but a lot of these people were just asking questions, right? And so we're going to go over some of these things that they're labeling conspiracies and stuff, and just kind of see where it is a conspiracy or whether it's just concerned citizens asking questions, trying to get to the facts. And that's why a lot of people wanted a trial, because they wanted to go through the evidence and to see that the police work was done properly, and to see the justice system in action from beginning to end, from the time that law enforcement does the investigation to the time that the prosecution presents it, right? So let me bring up, hold on, because I think I
And
have.
another thing to add to that is that they had imposed a very, very wide, strict gag order on this case. And
Okay,
so
yeah,
a
let
lot
me
of
bring up
people,
that slide that you put, because I think that was the next topic that we're talking about was the beginning. We're going to go back to the beginning of the investigation with her slide. So go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, like, I think that's one of the things is like people just tried to find answers and reasons for how something like this could happen. And when there's a gag order and information isn't shared, it leads to kind of these other conspiracy theories, and it doesn't help anyone, but it's just, something for people to keep in mind how
Yeah, and so
those things
here's one of
happen.
the examples that you had sent over to me that said on the 11/22 release. So this was when they were releasing information on a website. So so after the murder, everybody was kind of like on high alert. There's a murder on the loose, this and that, and the conspiracy theories started right off the top. Obviously, there was Buddy, and you know the whole thing that happened with that, and people are like, someone's killing animals, someone's killing people. What's going on? And so in order to avoid disinformation, the police department made a website which was like updated by the public information officer. And in this instance that she sent over to me, because DFJ basically, she was covering the case as it was going. And one of the aspects that she was covering was the public information officers and the website and finding all these inconsistencies, which, it was to prevent disinformation, but it was creating more disinformation. So on this one that she sent, it said, on the morning of the incident, they found, and this is a different dog. This is Kaylee
Oh
Gonzalez.
yes, this was that's what's so funny. It went from like one dog to another dog. Yeah, this is
Mhm.
about Kaylee's dog.
Yeah,
They
Kaylee's
changed the
dog.
story 3 times in a row.
Yeah, and so here they're saying they found the dog at night, and so people were like, "What do you mean you found the dog at night? Like, where was the dog the whole time?" Because that's another thing that, and Candace Owens, I know a lot of people don't like CO and stuff, and I try not to talk about her because she's divisive, but on her episode, that people said, "Oh, it's another grifter, it's conspiracy." She did mention the dog, saying how strange it was that the dog did not, mess with the scene. And, like there was something there with the dog. The dog didn't get tested for fibers or anything, which should have been done. I don't know how it works. I'm not a forensics expert or in law enforcement, but to the layman, it seems like they would have tested the dog to see if any fibers had fallen on him, or if, or at least said, like, was the dog locked up? And that's why
And
he
here,
didn't have any of the
yeah,
scene.
and here's my thing
Like
is like
art.
they got there at noon. So,
Mhm.
there is a quad homicide. There's 4 people that are murdered. So the first thing that they should be doing, they should secure the scene and clear the house and make sure that there's not some murderer like still in the house. And so if the dog was in the house, like how did they not find him until the night? Night is what, like
Mhm.
after 4. So what, took you 4 hours to like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Um, or like the roommates, they knew that like what, that the other roommates were dead at that point, weren't they? Like, oh, there's a dog in the house. It made no sense. So after they said they found the dog at night, then they changed the story because everyone's like, what do you mean you found the Murphy at night? That makes no sense. And they're like, oh, they found him in the day. And then they changed it again tonight. And it's like, why are they changing these strange, it's just such a strange detail to change that it just raises suspicions. Like, I just feel like they messed up the whole beginning of
Of the case, yeah.
when they showed up. I don't know what happened. I have no idea, but I just know that in 7 years, if they haven't had a homicide, they probably just weren't prepared. And I don't know, maybe they don't have protocol.
And maybe you can highlight this or pin them to your X. I don't know if you can still highlight old posts so that people can find them, but so she has all these different examples on her X. And maybe
Yeah.
you can highlight them so people can find them when they're done with the show if they want to because obviously the screen is too small to look all into it. But there were several examples in the different press releases, um, forgetting to update the dates and all kinds of different things here that she has.
And so then they brought in a new like communications team, a whole team. And
Mhm.
so like from the state, because they're like, obviously like this was kind of a mess. And so But then even when they brought in the one from the state, they were still messing things up. And do you have the homicide, the homicide one?
Yeah.
They were spelling homicide, homicide, like HOMO. And for everything, I think it's the blue slide. If you go, it's number 11, slide 11.
Okay. Oh, there we
So
go.
like, it was just so funny because it's just like, I mean, okay, I get it. You haven't had a homicide in this town for a long time, but like you should at least know how to spell the word. And it's not only just that they were spelling it wrong. Like if you see, like on the bottom right, like those are the links to the file. So they saved the file names wrong as homicide. And then I made another tweet and I just said, check your hashtags, spelling errors of homicide, talking to you, Idaho homicides. Because then people were also spelling it wrong. I mean, there's not a lot of like funny things about this case, but like that was just at least something to kind of laugh about. But it just again shows, even when they brought in like supposedly the state public information officer, and she was supposed to be so good, and they were like still having all these like idiotic problems for a huge case. It's like, get your shit together, you guys.
I don't know if y'all can see it there, but yeah. So this is how they were updating it. And Sleuthy, I love Sleuthy. I followed her. So I came from true crime community. So I've been doing true crime for like 10 years. So I know all these names from the true crime, like Sleuthy, Nerdy Addict, and everyone. So I'm looking forward to covering some of these other cases we'll talk about at the end of the show to see the old crew. But yeah, let me just go ahead and put up the next slide. We are going to get into the plea deal, but let me just put this up while I'm looking for the next slide. So you're basically saying there was already mishaps in the beginning, and one of the reasons that I think, at least, I'm not going to speak for DFJ, but is that I felt like maybe going to trial would uncover a lot of these inconsistencies, for like that the defense would nitpick at all these things, which is obviously it doesn't matter what the link was named or whatever, but it wasn't just that. It was that it was a detective that Steve Goncalves says this in when he got on with News Nation. He says the detective that was on the case was only there for 2 years. So he was inexperienced, and it seemed like, there could have been some stuff going on with the way the evidence was collected as far as the genealogy sample. There was a lot of controversy with that. And those were some of the questions that the Goncalves family started to ask early on. And there's division on the Goncalves family because a lot of people think, they were too brash. They were, trying to get on every show and all this. But if you were following it from the beginning, her sister, Olivia Goncalves, she was the first one to get, like, she was a web sleuth. One of the students that were murdered, Kaylee, she followed a lot of web sleuths and true crime and stuff. Her and her sister did. And so right away when this happened, she started to ask the community for help and put out the, infamous food truck video. And to try and help, pin down, she's the one who got the information on the Uber driver who dropped them off. I believe she might have also had the DoorDash info that was coming from her. So she was doing her own detective work, and people were like, oh, this family's brash or whatever. But they were holding the Moscow Police Department, their feet to the fire, saying, like, this is our kid. Like, we want to make sure this investigation is being thorough, that, all these things are being.
I will fight back every day if anyone has anything to say, like how a parent deals with the loss of a child. They were trying to get answers. They were trying to get justice, and kind of looking at some of the mess ups that happened, like not getting the surveillance, like not telling people to save their surveillance footage until over a week later, when a lot of surveillance systems will, they lose it after a week. So they should have told everyone that right away. And they, like, one of the places on the main road they didn't even go to until 9 days later. And it's like, I could understand the parents getting frustrated and being like, what are you guys doing? We want answers. I just feel for them so much.
Yeah. And so when the plea deal came yesterday, I had posted I put breaking, just as I suspected, the Goncalves family is not happy about the state of Idaho's plea agreement with Bryan Kohberger. Their daughter, Kaylee, was one of the Idaho 4 students who were murdered in cold blood while sleeping. They rightfully wanted a full trial and answers. And that's when I was like, you know what? I need to cover this case, because I was going to cover it once the trial started anyways, because it was one of those things that I'd, followed the whole way through up until he, was arrested and all that stuff. So I was like, I really want to cover it. But I was like, no, now I was debating, because it's, kids getting stabbed and stuff. I was like, should I get back into true crime? Should I not? But I felt like it was important for the family, because one of the main reasons that I wanted to do the show was they had put out a statement saying that they wanted help contacting the Ada County clerk
And the
and
judge.
and the judge to tell him not to take the plea deal. And this was yesterday, but today they are asking for our help to contact them to at least add into that plea deal that Bryan Kohberger give an allocation. And so an allocation is basically a statement from the defendant in a case when they're pleading guilty, where they go, oh, I'm getting all my messages over here. Sorry. Sorry. So I had all my
Yeah,
messages.
I mean, I'm gonna, if you put the info, I mean, I only saw the one that you had posted today where they had the phone number for the judge, and like, I'm gonna call. I told Citizen we should call on the
We're going to
stream.
call on live. We're going to call right now. So I don't know if you want to call it, and I'll put it up as you're calling.
How do we do that?
Are you on your phone? Or are you on a computer?
Well, I'm on my laptop.
Well, you
I could call from my laptop.
Speaker. Or you can put it on speaker from your phone, or
oh yeah, I could put it on speaker from my phone.
So we thought it'd be cool if we just showed y'all how to get in there.
Oh, but if I'm on my, okay, wait, actually, so let me just turn my Bluetooth off on this, right? On my phone. Okay. I'm just going to go to the phone number. Okay. I have no idea. This is just what it said. I don't know if you want to pull up the post you had today where it just says the number for the judge, Hippler.
Let me pull that up. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Let me zoom out. I think, is it the last page?
Yes. Just in case like people want to see what the post is, but okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Sorry guys, I'm so disorganized today. Here it is. Okay, there we go.
Okay, I'm not really prepared for this, but we'll just try it. So I'm calling right now. Hold on, can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear.
You can hear this?
Yep. So we're calling the Ada clerk. There's the phone number, 208-287-7551, if y'all want to write that down. We're going to leave them a message. What time is court tomorrow?
You've reached Judge Hippler's chamber. Voice messages will not be checked for the remainder of the week. If you have actual court business for me, you may email me. If this call
they are not
is
checking
regarding
voice
Kohberger
messages.
case,
It looks like
you
they
should
probably
reach out
called
to
it.
Kohberger case at ada.idcourt.gov.
Did you hear that?
Yep.
Record your message at the tone when you are finished.
Kohberger case at ADA, what?
.gov.
I don't know.
Sorry, I was talking through it.
But yeah, basically, okay. So I'm
gonna
put
it in the link below. I'll link it to the description. But
I think we should link it because it's tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Yeah, let me link it, and it says, at a bare minimum, we want a confession. A full, it kind of cuts off. Is there a link to this one? No. Oh, wait, hold on.
Oh, I have the link. Do you want it? Hold on.
It's right here. Okay, it says, while we are cognizant that some may have wanted the plea, the prosecution relayed to us that it was not a majority vote in offering this plea. At a bare minimum, please require a full confession, full accountability of the true facts and what happened. They want to know the location of the murder weapon, confirmation that the defendant acted alone, and it says we deserve to know when the beginning of the end was. So, he wanted to try and protect the families, but at the end of the day, some of the families wanted to know. They wanted to know how their child passed away. They
Yes.
wanted the details. They wanted, and this is why people say, oh, true crime junkies or all this stuff. But it's like the reason why people are obsessed with true crime is because when something this horrific happens, you're like, why did that happen? And so by the time that you get through the trial and the person gets arrested and you get to see all this evidence, and the why normally 9 out of 10 times gets answered by the end of that trial, you're like, oh, okay, this is why it happened. This was the
And it,
person's state of mind. This was, what they went through, or, at least what was proven in court with evidence. So it kind of gives you a peace of mind, because I know that, when it's just like, say it's like a boyfriend or a husband that ends up murdering the wife, it's not as bad as when it's like, oh, it's a psychopath killer,
mhm.
That's out there. Because with that, it's like, I don't know, I felt like we could learn more about how this could be preventable in a way, not because like how you can prevent it, like, lock your doors or something like that, but preventable as to like what kind of person Bryan Kohberger was, what enticed him to do it. Like, yes, sure, he's a psychopath, he did it, but I feel like a trial would have given us answers as to like what his mentality was, why he struck. Like, he was a criminology student. There was so much there that could have helped the public, to prevent
Yeah.
another Bryan Kohberger.
And I think the parents, have said because of the gag order, a lot of the public was like not made aware of a lot of the details of what happened. And the mom, Kaylee's mom, was saying that like, she thinks that the public needs to know, because this was a very, very disturbed person. And because the public doesn't know, people have run wild with all these different conspiracy theories, and they like are attacking the families, and the families are like, we want you guys to like tell the truth. Like, this gag order is not helping the victims. Like, we want the truth out there. So like people know what happened to our kids. Like, people need to know the truth and stop coming for us. Like this guy did it. He's sick. We have a ton of evidence, or he wouldn't have pleaded guilty to all 4 of the murders. I mean, the thing is, so much was actually kind of in his favor. Like the fact that they demolished the crime scene. I've never heard of anything like that in my life. And
We're gonna get into that one, because you had a really great slide on the destruction of that. But I did pull up the actual email here for you guys really quick before we get into that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's gonna be our next slide. It's Kohberger case at ada.idcourts.gov. So if anyone, I know we only have a few people here, but if anyone's part of Replay Crew, if it's before 11 a.m. on Wednesday, July 2nd, and please, 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 it'll take a couple seconds. I'll actually bring up my email real quick, and I'll send one, because I did fill out the contact form for Ada County. They have like a contact form on their website.
I
But
think
this
it's
is
like,
actually, they're saying that this is where you go to for to contact them, because they won't be checking their voicemail. So I'm sure that a lot of people started calling the voicemail, because they posted that to the Goncalves family page. And if you guys have a Facebook, follow the Goncalves family. They always post there. And I mean, I don't know, I have a really soft spot for that family, because especially Steve Goncalves, he's fought for his daughter so hard. He's fought so hard, and for transparency, because he gives kudos to law enforcement and everybody who solved the case. But with the prosecution, he's always had kind of a chip, because they were not, the transparency wasn't there. And as someone who is a family of something that horrendous had happened, it was just, there needed to be, and I get it that they can't while it's an active investigation, but he had questions, such as some of his questions were, why was the house demolished? And you, on your slide, I believe you said that there hadn't been a, let me bring it up, there hadn't been a demolition since
no, there hadn't been a homicide in 7 years.
Oh, in 7 years. Okay, so let me bring
A
up your
homicide, but the demolition of the house, to me, was absolutely insane. I mean, it's literally a crime scene. And I think I had a few slides on it, but one of them was a link to lawyer, Peter, and he's not someone, he doesn't come in hot ever. Like, he's kind of more laid back, and it takes kind of a lot to get him like you know, to kind of like go there. And he was like really disturbed by this because he's like, what? He couldn't even understand it. So like when Peter was like that, I was like, okay, you know, I'm not the only one. But then also, yeah, he's on the right there with the little hoodie. Oh, the one on the left, I love those guys. I don't know if you watched the Interview Room, but
Yeah.
Gary Brucato is he's like the serial killer whisperer kind of. Like he just released like a book that I'm trying to not read, but, you know, listen to. I want to listen to it because he just will go through all the different serial killers. But he basically was right about Kohberger the entire time from the beginning of the investigation. He like basically called it out because he has a lot of experience with this stuff, and everything he said so far is right. And what he said about Kohberger, I mean, he just thinks like this was definitely like a like a fantasy motivated, a really, you know, sick person, fantasy motivated, where like the knife is an extension of the person. And, you know, he has a whole big thing on it, and I won't give him any.
Oh, this is what I was talking about. You said even Parkland did in demolition classroom crime scene in the middle of campus that students walk by every single day.
Yes, and that's the thing. And with Parkland, that was like in the middle of campus. That's a high school. And they left those rooms and with everything, like their book bags
Well,
scattered, the blood
Do
scattered,
you
everything.
think that it was demolished because there may have been some like investigative
No.
flaws or
No,
something?
no, no. They demolished it. They demolished it because the president of University of Idaho, Scott Green, it was gifted by the owners. And, you know, they were going to do the owners of the house were like, let's do something nice for the families. But like, you know, after the trial, and the president of the university was like, oh, well, we're going to demolish it so everyone can heal, you know? And it was like, who are you talking about? Everyone can heal. Like there's the victims' families aren't going to heal until they're, you know, this goes to trial and that justice is found. And that doesn't happen when you demolish a crime scene. I mean, it's just bizarre to me. The whole thing, I just think they wanted this to go away. Yeah, this is really funny too. Okay, I was so mad. I was so mad at this guy for demolishing the house because it's very important for juries. I mean, this isn't like a normal case. This is a quad homicide, okay? Like this is the kind of house like you want your jurors to walk through to understand like what happened. And to demolish something like that is I was so mad. So anyways, I dug up on this president, and because we found out he used to live there when he was a kid. Like that's crazy.
So was he trying to heal from something?
I don't know. Maybe because his parents divorced and this house was involved in the divorce. And
But that is a crazy little tidbit there.
yeah. And I was like, why are you like, you shouldn't even be involved in this decision. Like this should, and that's what really, really, really bothers me about this, like the way this whole case has been handled. And up until this like plea deal agreement thing is like, I just feel like the victim's voice has not been heard. That, you know, there's no logic to this. This house was all the way, like it was far off from campus. This isn't something that's going to affect other people if it's just there preserved, you know? And that's what it goes back to Parkland. Like, and with Parkland, he had already actually pleaded guilty. It was just like a sentencing phase if he was going to get the death penalty or not. And they still did the juror walkthrough and everything, but that took years. And they kept those buildings intact where the murders happened in Parkland. And they put like a fence around it with like photos of like the victims hanging around it to try to like help the kids who had to walk by this every single day. But like Parkland did it, and it just makes me disgusted like that.
This is what it used to look like, and they had to have a cop car outside of it because you know, there's this new thing with true crime, which is true crime traveling, where people go to, and there was a lot of people, I mean, for months and months, even after Kohberger got caught, there was before the demolition even, there was a lot of people who, you can see the memorial here in the front, who would go and put stuff in the memorial. And there was also true crime travelers who traveled from all across the country to go and see the house and stuff. And I do get it that, you know, it was a traffic problem and, you know, it shouldn't be glamorized or, you know, all this stuff, that they had legitimate concerns. But at the same time, you know, the house, you know, was part, I don't know how it works as far as forensics, if, you know, they got everything they needed out of there and they wanted to demolish it. But I felt like it's sadder for it to be demolished, because then it's like you can't change the energy there. It's there, and that's what happened, and now it's an empty lot that, like, it would have been one thing if they would have demolished it and created something else, but it looks really, really sad now. I don't have the picture of what it looks like now, but it's literally just a grassy, empty lot. And I wanted to bring up the slide when you were talking about the families and getting justice, because the Goncalves family actually, they put out this statement, and this is the statement that had all the questions, where he's saying the death penalty is merely an illusion in the criminal justice system. When available, it serves as a bargaining tool for the state, and when rarely applied, it's never enforced to a highly inefficient appellate process. So I know that the prosecution sent them in a letter like, you don't want to go through the appeals process. What Steve Goncalves and the Goncalves family is trying to get the public and opening up our eyes is to, like, why does the justice system work like this? What are the flaws in the justice system that we, the public, can ask questions and, get to answers to help the justice system become, and it's the same thing with Baldoni versus Lively, that, we're asking questions that are, like the 47.1 and all this other stuff. It's like, how is it fair to both sides and things like that? Legitimate questions, right?
Yeah.
And so he's saying that the appellate process is inefficient. Why does it take so long, in death row and stuff? And I get it that sometimes, when people are innocent and stuff like that, the appeals processes can help when there's like 10, 13 appeals. But anyway, so he says the notion that someone can plead guilty to a crime and still face years of appellate delays reveals a systemic failure. The Lara County Prosecutor's Office treatment of our family during this process is something that I wouldn't wish on anyone. So normally they have like victims advocates and stuff, like, those are the people that are supposed to help you. And there's a case that I'm going to be covering, the Jared Bridegan case, where, that county's officers, the wife of the guy who got killed, she's gotten so much help from them. They've been super, super good to her. And it wasn't the case here in Lata. It says we questioned decisions early on in the investigation. So this is what we're going to go into, which is some of the questions that, oh, is the sound weird? Is it echoey?
I wonder if that's just for me.
Missy
says that hers is fine.
CJ sounds echoey. Does anybody have YouTube up at the same time as me? Are you on? No, maybe. Do I still sound echoey?
Hold on, wait.
Someone says they have a if you have YouTube on at the same time,
No, I have mine closed now. But I didn't have it on. I didn't have the volume on.
Oh, okay. Okay, so do I sound good? Okay. So these
are
the questions
sound echoey to me, but I wonder if it's just me.
Sometimes with headphones, I know that was happening to Elsie once, where she had AirPods in and it was echoey.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm gonna take mine out. Oops.
See if that'll work. Okay, so these are the questions that he was talking about. It was, why did the mayor, okay, so it's saying, why was the mayor commenting on the case? Well, on that one, I feel like, okay, it's his town. I'm sure the mayor can comment. Why was the coroner speaking to families? So that one, I never understood either, because, yeah, the coroner was telling him exactly where the stab wounds were and all this other stuff. Why was an officer with less than 2 years experience leading the investigation? Why was the University of Idaho involved when they declared it an isolated off-campus incident? Why was the university permitted to write a book about the incident while others were silenced under an overly broad order? So I don't know about this book that is anybody in the chat? If anybody knows, what was this book? Do y'all know about this book?
I think the president wrote the book. I'm telling you, the guy is weird. In my opinion, allegedly, he's weird.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure he's the one who wrote it, though.
Okay, so it says, as a result, we were branded adversaries. So it was no shock how the Lara County Prosecutor's Office mishandled the plea deal. And so it goes on to say that, they vaguely mentioned it to him. So this was like over 3 days, the plea deal, where it was, they contacted them on a Friday to say there might be a potential plea deal. And then by Sunday, they're like, we have a plea deal. And they were like scrambling, like, wait, what? And because I do feel that there should have been an allocation, which, would have given the family some peace. And it could have been like through a proffer where it's only the judge and the families, like under seal, where the public doesn't know. And as much as, I felt like the public also deserves to know what happened. Just like I said, because of like, how can you prevent like what his mindset? I don't know. I just feel like if we knew his mindset, plus this way, he couldn't like go out and write a book about it. Like the details are already out there. He couldn't go and give an interview from behind bars. The details are already out there. But at the very least, the families should have been able to, if it was sealed, they should have at least had the right to know what happened. And it's
It's
saying,
his, yeah, it's his
it's like,
life.
mhm.
They're giving him his life. They should be able to ask for for these things. Like they're letting him live. I don't think it's too much to ask for to be like, what was, where's the murder weapon? You know, explain just to get answers. I don't think that's a lot to ask for. And it's like, if you're not going to give us answers, meet the firing squad.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I feel like they had the leverage because a lot of people are saying that um the you know the case was rock solid. Why would okay, and Mark Garagos was on News Nation and he was just saying the families need justice. Yes, Christina. He was just saying that it didn't make sense to him why Kohberger would plea now because the prosecution themselves said in the letter to the families, like there could be a mistrial, there could be a hung jury. And Mark Garagos is like, exactly. So why would Kohberger plea unless he had this like guilty conscience or something? But it
No,
didn't
he
make
does not
sense.
have a guilty conscience.
It didn't make sense. And so one of the theories that I had talked to DFJ before we got on was like, I thought, well, maybe Ann Taylor was just not prepared because the delays didn't work and all this other stuff. And so she was like, she went to her client and tried to be like, look, you don't have nothing, the alternate suspect theory got thrown out. Like you need to just take a plea or, whatever. Cause maybe she just didn't want to go through a whole trial because trials are stressful
Well,
for not just the families, the lawyers too. Like they had terabytes of evidence. So it's like,
yeah. And in a death penalty case, I mean, for a defense, their job is to literally try to save their client from his life, to try to save them from getting the death penalty. And I personally think that they were going to lose. I mean, there was too much evidence. It was obviously him. And I think, I just think that they were like, you should just take the deal. But and it's kind of like an FU to the family. It's like they have the upper hand again. It's like, okay, now you're not going to get answers. You're not going to get closure.
and who benefits from a one-sided story? Like who benefits from just the story that's being told by the University of Idaho, whoever wrote that book? They
Yeah.
weren't allowed. I don't know. Is the gag order going to be lifted now? Are they going to be
The
allowed to
gag order should be lifted. And like, I mean, I'm telling you, like, I'm going to see if I can do it now. I'm FOIA requesting everything because this should now all be, available.
We'll have to come back when DFJ gets all the FOIAs and
yeah. Because I definitely, this will all come out, and it's just unfortunate because at least with the trial, it's more like public and the public can all learn everything at the same time versus like what's going to happen now. It just depends. Like you see, like in the Diddy trial, like we're seeing exhibits. It's not even a stream trial, like, but we're still it's all getting fed to the media. And it was just like with this case, I feel like the prosecutor was just like a big FU to the victims. This was just about like protecting like, the police, the university, and like making this go away as quick as possible because University of Idaho, it's like a big moneymaker for the state. It brings a lot of, money or employment for the state. I mean, it's just like they need to make this go away and they just need to want things back to normal. That's what I think it is.
And so this person said, one of the citizens on X says, I agree that the University of Moscow wanted this behind them with no appeals, no nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I think Steve G is onto something when he said that the Dateline episode was the catalyst for the state to make this go away.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to get into the leak from the Dateline episode. So for y'all that don't know, a couple weeks ago, maybe last month or the month before, a Dateline documentary came out with new evidence. And some of that new evidence pertained to the roommates and the texting of the roommates, that they were up in the middle of the night texting each other, saving pictures, things like that. And the judge ordered for all of the anyone who was involved in the investigation, anyone on the prosecution team, anyone on the defense team, and I don't know if he ordered it or he was about to order, but I believe he did order that all their like communications were turned over, because they were going to get to the bottom of who leaked it.
I think that
So
was the first judge because they did not. No one liked that judge. Like
no, this was just recently with Judge Hippler. Let me see if I can bring it up. But I believe
but the
maybe he
gag
just
order was the
warned
first
them.
judge. Was the gag order the first judge?
I'm
I'm
not
pretty
telling.
sure the gag order was the first judge because it came out. Remember when I said that one like I had one article that like blew up like compared to anything else I posted about this case. Like it was right when you could get the stats on X, and it was because it was right after the gag order, and that was like early on. This was right after he was caught. So I want to
This
say,
was May 15th. So this just happened. I don't know if you know about the Dateline leak.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
says the judge ruled after Dateline leak in Kohberger case demand source probe. So he's saying the information must have come from someone currently or formerly involved in law enforcement or the prosecution.
A gag
Again,
order
it
was,
was issued early on
yeah.
in Kohberger. And so I believe let me see, the Dateline episode revealed a previously unknown things about the case and could severely impact the jury. He instructed, right here. He instructed the prosecution to compile a complete list of everyone who had access to the details. The order also instructs prosecutors to come up with a plan on how to prevent any further leaks. Anyone who has been involved in this case through law enforcement has been ordered to keep all records. So he hadn't asked for the records yet, but he basically sent out like a preservation of records from law enforcement or prosecution. So Steve Goncalves believes that so this was May 15th, that the judge was ordering this, that there was a scramble to offer a plea deal. But now
He
we know
had to
that
do
the
that,
plea
right?
deal, what's that?
He had to do that though because of the gag order. I mean, there was a violation of the gag order, so he had to
But
do
he's saying that there might be something in, like, law enforcement or the prosecution may have been the leakers, or they didn't want them to access records between law enforcement. And so they wanted to make a plea deal with the defense in order to prevent those records from coming out, because eventually he was going to be digging. It seems right now he just wanted the names of the people.
Can you scroll so I can see what the title on the document is right there? No, go the legal
Oh,
document.
this one. Okay.
It says
Document and records hold order.
yeah, I think this was just in response. I don't know, but I just think that this was in response to the initial gag order. That's what I'm guessing. Like it was violated, and so the judge had to act. But I don't know. I mean,
Well, Steve was saying that he believed that this is why there was a rush to a plea deal. So I found it compelling because, I mean, we did find out later that the defense is the one who came to the prosecution, but I found it compelling that, maybe they didn't want something to come out, and
I'm
or
sure.
maybe Anne was the one who leaked it and she didn't want it to come out. We don't know, but I did find that like,
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I mean, usually with these types of things, it's like I always say it's money or incompetence, and I think that they just with Idaho, especially like with the university, and with this president, who I mean, I have so many questions about him. Citizen knows like the kind of like digging I did on this guy because I was just so disappointed in what he did with the house. But I just think this came back to like, yeah, they just want this to go away. Like they don't, that's it. And I don't think I don't know how bad it was, but there was obviously missteps in the beginning. And yeah, if there was a leak, it probably was on, the prosecution side somewhere, or the cops, or I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but I could see them, doing this to just shut everything down and go back to being how they were before.
And Brian Enton, who's one of my favorite reporters, he covered it
Love
from the
him.
very, very beginning. I love him. Like, if you guys want to deep dive into any Idaho 4 content ever, or start from the beginning, Brian Enton he was there from day one, and he compassionately knew how to report it. He didn't sensationalize it. He didn't clickbait anything. But he said, my personal feelings from the very beginning, Idaho has not wanted to deal with this case.
Exactly.
From
Yes.
University of Idaho taking ownership of the house and then tearing it down, which was pretty like unprecedented, right? That like the university would take control of it. Like it was just weird that they got sold to the university in the
Well, no,
first
no,
place.
it was gifted. It wasn't even sold. The owners of the house gifted it
Oh, they just gifted it to the university?
because they said, and they wanted, they wanted to do something nice with it after, to honor the kids, but they didn't say, "Oh, tear it down," like before a trial.
Mhm.
So it was totally, the university just did this terrible thing, and they were so awful about it. Like the university's lawyers sent an email to like the families and were like, the owners gifted a house to us and we agreed we're just going to demolish it. It's just like, I just feel like they've treated these families so bad. I feel so bad for them. Like, I wonder, does like the Idaho or Moscow even have a victim's advocate? Like, I just wonder if one ever even like appeared at any point in this whole thing, because it doesn't
Yeah,
feel like
I
that.
have to look it up, but yeah, definitely drop the ball there. If even if one family felt that way, um, it definitely dropped the ball. And he says so that he continues to say the initial judge passed the case on the gag order and constant annoyances with any attention that the case gets, because they don't want the Gonzalves family out there talking about their daughter and all these inconsistencies and stuff, because they don't want the attention on the town. They don't want it to come back. And yes, Khaleesi, I agree with you. It's like they're being victimized again. And this is
Mhm.
supposedly what the prosecution is trying to prevent, is for them to be re-victimized. The thing is, the Gonzalez
No.
family is like a really, really strong family. They have been through so much. And the only, I mean, I know the Chapins have, given interviews and stuff, but the Chapins from the very, very beginning, and I'm gonna pull up the bookmark. Hold on, let me get to my bookmark.
I don't know if you had a chance to watch the video I sent you yesterday of the parents talking, but
Right here,
like they had really prepared for that. Like they were really prepared for this trial. They scheduled their whole like summer around it, basically. Like like when they were going to be taking their next kid to school, which is already like a huge thing for them, because it's so scary. Like they just lost their kid in college. Like now another kid's about to go to college, and they're grappling with that. And then, but they've made like this whole point, and they have to travel there because remember they took it out
Mhm.
of their town. So it's not just like they're going to drive to court every day. They have to pick up their lives and like stay there, get like hotels or Airbnbs, and like they had planned this all out. And I don't know. I
They were
mean,
ready to face it head on. And
mhm.
Steve Gonzalez from the very beginning, I mean, honestly, I feel like it stemmed from the coroner. The coroner was the first one who came up to the family and told them, this was the stab wounds or whatever. And then I'm not saying like that's what made him curious or want to like deep down, more into it. But at the end of the day, he wanted to know what happened to his daughter. He
Mhm.
wanted to know what she was doing, what everybody else was doing in the house, why, he never blamed the roommates. He actually came out and supported them and said, like,
Yeah.
please stop blaming them and things like that. But all those details, I think, mattered to the family. They wanted to know, and to the public, I feel like, how can this, be prevented? We never found out if like the sliding glass door was left open and that's
Well,
how
I
he
can tell
entered.
you. I can tell you. They This is why you have to investigate animal cruelty, because it never stops with the animal. And if they had actually taken Buddy the dog seriously, this is just like in my opinion, but this is also true. If they had taken it seriously and investigated it, maybe caught the guy, if they had caught him, this may have prevent other murders, because people who hurt animals, it never stops at animals. It's just a fact. And it's crazy when jurisdictions don't take animal cruelty cases seriously, because it's just like you're just asking for something worse to
And
happen.
there's a
And
lot of people who still think that Kohberger was who did that to Buddy, the dog, that he was
it was a
involved
warm-up
as
killing.
yep,
That's what
as a
and that's what Brocado said. And that's like what a lot of the experts say. Have you ever seen Mindhunters, that
mhm,
show?
yes, yes.
So Ann Burgess, she's the one who made the behavioral analyst unit for the FBI. She goes on like with Brocado a lot on the interview room. So it's really interesting to hear their like takes on all these like serial killers, because they used to like literally like interview them. They're the ones who made the department. And actually in this case, the behavioral analyst unit was there. Like they sent two for this case, and I've never actually seen that before. So I thought that was pretty cool. But they were saying like, this is very typical, like what happened to Buddy. Like they're just like, there's no question. Like that was like a warm-up killing. Or there's 2 Bryan Kohbergers. I mean, that's the only explanation.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, she's right. You know, if you don't investigate these animal cruelty acts, and it's a thing with serial killers that they always go for the animals first. Like, you know, it's like one of the tropes, like the killing of the cats and stuff like that. But this time it was a dog. But we were talking about the families and how, and the plea deals. Brian Ented had posted that Ethan Chapin's family will be in court tomorrow in support of the plea deal. And the difference between some of the families is that while the Goncalveses wanted to know everything, the Chapins did not. Immediately after it happened, Ethan, one of the students that was murdered, was a triplet. So they had a son and a daughter who were still going to U of I. And so, you know, they were very much entangled with the school system. And they said from the onset, like, we don't want, they weren't going to go to the trial. They didn't make no arrangements to be at the trial or anything. They didn't care. They said, it's not going to bring my son back. They immediately focused on a scholarship fund in the name of Ethan. And I think there's like some like flowers you can buy, Ethan's Sunshine or something. I forget what it is, but I will post in the link in the description. I'm going to put together all the different organizations that we can support to support the families and, you know, support the victims and all that stuff. Because I believe Zaina also has a scholarship under her name that we can support and stuff. But Madison Mogan's father initially was gung-ho on the death penalty and everything, but now he's saying he's happy with the plea deal because he wants it to just, you know, get behind him, and, you know, he wants to start to heal. So there are some families that, you know, I know Zaina's family has said they did not want the plea deal. Steve Goncalves said that there wasn't a majority. So we don't know who else did not want the plea deal. I'm assuming that the roommates probably wanted the plea deal to go through because they didn't want to have to testify, I'm sure, you know. So for that, you know, there are aspects of it that seem to be positive. But at the same time, you know, there's going to be a lot of questions that were left unanswered. And for me, I was interested and intrigued in the trial because I wanted to see the stuff with the forensics and the 23andMe. Because I was talking to DFJ. I'm not sure. We weren't sure if this was the first time it had been used in that way, where they found the DNA through genealogy. But I know that there was a case, and I'm going to do another episode just delving into that part of it. As far as the FIST Act that passed through the Senate on, you know, how there was no HIPAA with it and what it entails when the cops can literally get, you know, all this information through, you know, someone who was like your grandfather's, anybody who submitted their DNA. Then now
for people that don't know for this, what happened. So basically the FBI had followed Kohberger from Idaho to Pennsylvania. And at this point they had the DNA, but there was, they had followed, but you know, like it wasn't linked to him because he wasn't in the system. So they follow him to Pennsylvania, and then the trash gets taken out, and then they take the trash, they test the DNA, and the dad's DNA is in there, and whatever, I don't know how the DNA, but you know, it kind of matches up. So it basically confirms that it was like they're related. And that's how they basically got him, you know, and also because
people, they were trying to throw out that evidence, but the judge said, no, it came into play. Cause some people thought, what, you know, was that allowed, or, you know, how that worked. But I believe that the judge ended up saying they could go ahead and use it. Cause I know the defense fought really hard to try and get that DNA.
Yeah. And I also think, I mean, with the 23andMe, you know, I don't know if other family members had done the 23andMe, but that was one of the other databases, I guess. Yeah, that was used in this one, which, I mean, anytime if you do something like that, and if one of your family, I mean, I don't see the big deal. Like if my family member commits a crime and their DNA matches my DNA from the day, I mean, whatever. I don't see.
Khaleesi's saying, do the families get a say? So they did bring in all the families, but it was really at the last minute. Some family members weren't able to attend, and wrote letters. Like, I think her name's Aubrey Gonzalez, one of the daughters of Steve Gonzalez, Kaylee's sister, basically. They all were interviewed and asked, like, what do you think? But at the end of the day, it's up to the prosecution and the prosecutors to do it. So that's why Christina says, I don't think so. So they do it. They take what the families say into consideration. And that's what the prosecution's letter said, was that we took everything into consideration, and then considering these factors, and they named, sorry to be cynical. No, you're right, Christina. How much does that really matter? Sorry to be cynical. And that's something that's maybe possibly wrong with the justice system. Should the families have more of a say in how the defendant is prosecuted in a case? Because I've seen it before, when it's already been like the trial where it's death penalty or no death penalty. There's been some people who come in with like the victim impact statements,
Oh yeah.
and to get the death penalty. And there'll be some people who be like, I forgive you, I don't want the death penalty. And they do take that into consideration when the families don't want. If some people want to take the plea and some don't. So
I mean,
I think you had a slide up here. Let me
yes.
pull that one up.
So what I know exactly what you're going to, the one with the victim impact statements. Okay, so in November, like a few weeks after these murders, there was about to be a trial for another stabbing case in Florida. And this kid, I mean, it was just Austin Haroof, I think his name was. Yes. And so and I have the link there to the we have to watch it, but just, I mean, if anyone wants to see, basically the trial like didn't get to happen because they accepted like his plea deal or whatever, or insanity, and then the judge accepted guilty by insanity. That's what it was. So like it didn't even have a trial. And then because it was by insanity, it's like he didn't really even get like a real sentence, but he just goes to like a mental institution for whatever amount of time. And it was just horrific because this kid he wasn't mental. Like he did drugs and stuff, but he was very well aware. So it was heartbreaking. And it just felt like they ripped justice away from them. So anyways, these impact statements is what I feel like we're about to see with, not tomorrow, because tomorrow is just the change of the plea. But I think, I'm not sure how much longer afterwards, when they do the sentencing, that's when we'll hear the victim impact statements. And I feel like it's going to be just like that. These are some of the best, like most powerful victim impact statements I've ever heard. And because they just felt like justice was ripped away from them. And this is like not how our justice system is supposed to work. And in this case, I mean, okay, at least Kohberger's, I mean, he's guilty. He's going to rot in prison for the rest of his life. That's good. That's a good thing. We want that. We want the bad guys to be put away. It just is unfortunate that the victims didn't get to have their day in court.
Yeah, and one of the things that Christina's saying here says victim statements seem more for the people than for the judge. They deal with crazy, tragic stuff, or the judge so much. I'm sure they learn to turn the emotions off, or at least try. The judges do, but it reminded me of something when she says that it's more for the people, the victim statements and stuff.
Oh, it is, yeah.
It reminded me of how Kohberger is going to have to sit there and listen to all that. And one of the things that I did not like about the plea deal is that when you're in a trial, and especially a long trial, this is supposed to be a month-long trial, he was going to have to sit there with the families in the courthouse day in, day out. He was going to have to sit there and relive, everything, all the evidence, all the stuff that, they had gathered.
I think that would actually, he likes that. A lot of these sickos, they like to see their work.
Well, yeah, I guess you could say that if he was really like psychopathic like that. But to me, I felt like, well, like he's not going to be all shifty and uncomfortable. He just gets to go straight into the jail. Like he doesn't have to face the consequences of what he did. Look at the people and all this stuff. I'm sure that I know the Goncalves family went earlier. Yeah, Christina's saying I agree with you. He wasn't going to care. So maybe y'all are right. Maybe he was just so psychopathic that he's not going to care. And I know, who was it? Oh, it was in that link that you sent me, the one with the family. I'm going to try and link everything in the description, or I just started a new community called Objection Crime Chatter. So I'll invite you guys on X and I'll post the links there. But the video that you were talking about, let me pull it up. because I don't think I
was
have it
thinking
at
of
the
maybe
right
doing it.
spot.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't think I have it at the right spot, but let me see if I do. But this guy basically says he's talking about the victim impact statements, and he says that
Oh,
this is
yeah.
usually the time when they start to heal. I think that's the part where I had it at.
I think it might be. Oh, I think it's later on. I think it's later on. I think it's at like 1:10 or an hour 10.
Okay.
You don't have premium?
I do have premium, but not on this.
Oh, okay. So yeah, go to like 1 hour and 10 minutes.
Right here.
Mm-hmm. I can't hear it.
You can't hear it?
No,
Can you hear it now?
I don't have sound. Maybe someone else does.
No.
You hear it?
Hold on.
Yeah, Christina said they can't hear.
Okay, hold on. Sorry, let me try and figure this
Well,
out.
what I was gonna say, I was gonna take the slides. I mean, I'm so glad that you hit me up because I mean, it gave me a chance to go back and like really look through it because I want to be prepared. So I like went back to look through everything. And I think I might maybe I don't know if it's even like anyone cares, but I might do like a thread of a lot of it just, so people so that like we get closer. I thought we were having a trial also, you know, and since this kind of feels like a closure of the case, maybe I'll do like a final thread with everything. Am I still here?
Okay, I don't know what happened, but my
I
whole
can hear
computer
you.
just crashed.
Hello?
I'm back. Hello?
Can you hear
I'm like,
me?
all the windows just crashed, so I had to, like, come back in, so I have no idea. Oh, okay, no sound. Okay. Let me try it again because
No,
everything
no.
just crashed, and then I was like, "Oh my god, did the stream end?"
I think they can hear us now.
Okay. Let me, well, it all crashed, so now I don't have any of the images here, so let me go back. Sorry, guys. Take a
Well,
deep breath and
I
take
don't
it
even
in.
think that the video we have to
Play it. Okay.
play it, but it was exactly what you said. That was how he said for a lot of the victims, it's their impact statement is that kind of closure. They get it's so personal. They get everything out there facing the victim or facing the murderer who like, and it's kind of like that moment that they finally could be like, okay, now this is here and maybe we can start to, to move because I mean, it's not the justice how we want to see justice. I still think that I wish there would have been a trial. I think that's justice, but it is, whatever. He's pleading to it. He's admitting to it. He's going to be rotting in prison for the rest of his life. There is also something called prison justice,
Yeah, and I mean, we're obviously not advocating for that, but that
No, we're not.
happens
We're
a
not.
lot. That happens. And these were kids for the most part, they were college students. They were barely adults, so let me put this one back up with the email address for anybody else that needs it. I'm going to put that one up while I set up all the other slides so that way I have something up. But yeah, we'll sorry about that sound one. I'm just going through like what's left of the show here. Okay, so here's the next one. So this citizen here said they wanted to. It says, I don't know what the legal grounds are, but I believe that the family should somehow file a civil lawsuit against the state of Idaho. The lies and misdirection and conspiracy to lie and conspiracy to withhold evidence, which has not been proven, but I think it could be done. So this is someone who thinks that there's more digging to be done into how the investigation was handled and all this stuff, which it could be. They could be.
It's
That
not
could be
going
a
to
step
happen.
for the Gonzalveses. We don't know
I
if
don't think it's
they're
going to
just gonna let
happen.
it go or if people are gonna keep questioning. Because I know there's a lot of people who are still wanna, dig deep and dive in, and maybe, this is one of the reasons why the prosecution was like, "We need to just have the plea deal," and all these people need to stop digging into, law enforcement and what happened. Khaleesi says, I hope they keep investigating. Where there's sleuths that are in web sleuths that are still, and even in the Reddit for Idaho 4, that are saying, they're still going to deep dive. But we don't know if later on, this is the families just being angry, if later on the Goncalveses will, come to terms with the plea deal or not, So it says me too. So everyone's like, everyone's hoping they investigate. And it's not, because a lot of people are saying like, oh, it's the grifters who want to keep it going and stuff. But a lot of us seriously have questions. Like, I know for DFJ, it's the buddy thing. Like, why was the buddy thing just closed and, forgotten about? Why was
And they
the,
closed it and said it wasn't related when they didn't even know who their suspect was. How could it be not related?
and so like, how is the Latah County prosecutor's office going to be held accountable? Like for lack of investigation, or whether the prosecution had some missteps. Like you
they
said, there
won't.
hadn't been anything going on in that town for 7 years.
Well, no homicides.
And so, okay, so this tested their system, and I'm going to do another episode because I feel like it needs its own episode for this deep dive, and it's not a conspiracy theory episode or anything. This is just stuff that's out there that's legitimate. I'm going to do an episode on the millions of dollars in federal funding that the town of Moscow and the University of Idaho, as well as Pullman, the university that Bryan Kohberger went to, they were getting funding from the NIJ, and it was in regards to surveillance programs. And I mean, this is all legitimate stuff that if you follow the rabbit hole, it's not some, giant conspiracy theories that people are trying to just connect things. And I believe that Candace Owens was one of the ones. She just had an episode on April 23rd in regards to it. She doesn't really like allude exactly to it. She's saying she's going to, investigate it, but she never came back out after. But she did say government ties to the case, and other people have made the connection. And we're going to do an episode on that, as well as the 23andMe, Ancestry.com stuff with the FIST Act, which was the Forensic Investigative Genetic Genealogy, and how that went through in the Senate. And, just talk about how far the behavioral surveillance funding that they received went. Did it have anything to do with this case? And just kind of sleuth it out, in real time. We can go through all the stuff in an episode. Because I had that for today, but I feel like it needs its own section. Because today we're kind of just trying to get the Goncalves' messages out there, and justice for Buddy. Because I honestly, I didn't feel that passionate about Buddy until I saw the slides you made.
Well,
and now I'm just like super passionate about it. I'm like, where do we call to get justice for Buddy?
I know. I'm going to email the ADA that Kohberger case that.
She said, girl, if you tie this to some MK Ultra shit. No, I don't think it was. I know some people have said some stuff like that. I have heard about the MK Ultra stuff.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's any of that. I honestly, from what the parents said, and I mean,
I'm not connecting it to MK Ultra. I am saying that there was funding for programs on both schools for basically saying that, like, okay, so University of Idaho had gotten funding to prevent students from becoming victims and stuff. And so basically it was kind of like the counts, it was like, see something, say something. So they were analyzing different behaviors of different students, reporting it and stuff like that. Christina says I was joking. No, because there was some people who really did say that he was, Ann Taylor made him take the plea deal. She's MK Ultraing him.
Yeah,
but no, this is legitimate stuff about government funding, and kind of like what DFJ was saying about, the town being greedy and things like that, and, them wanting to continue to get the funding and stuff like that. So they don't want a big show. It sounds like some sort of government weird stuff though. So it made me think of that. Yeah. Now this is just about funding that the different schools are getting. LOL. Yeah, now I lost my place. Sorry, but yeah, that MK. No, it's not. It's not. I'm not going to deep dive into conspiracy theories, because out of respect for the families, and DFJ even told me before we started, like, this was done by Bryan Kohberger. Absolutely, Bryan Kohberger did this. The evidence was overwhelming. He's about to plead guilty. I believe the deep dives should be more focused on what the town didn't want us to uncover. Things like what DFJ did with the University of Idaho connection and the president, and things that just they don't pass the sniff test, you know?
That's just
Weird
the
things.
weirdest thing. That
Mhm,
the fact that he lived in that house, that is so strange to me.
mhm.
And then just to demolish it. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know. He's
let
a
me bring
weirdo.
up, because I had it saved, and then, I need to get your, did I c yeah, I lost it. I lost that one. Let me get back to your Canva. Hold on, y'all.
Well, just to tie back in the beginning when you said, the OJ thing, that the only part I thought was, like, the OJ for us, and I don't know how many people watched it, but when he left, when they finally, caught Kohberger and
Oh, here it is.
he was getting extradited, he was, people had, like, Flight Aware up, like, they had, like, the link, so instead it was, like, our generation's version of watching, like, the white Bronco of OJ, because I mean, I just remember us sitting there. I was watching the everyone tracking, like, the plane going from Pennsylvania all the way to, like, Idaho, and then, like, when he finally landed, there's, like, all these people on the runway, all this media to capture him, like, walking from on the tarmac, and he literally just went from the airplane to the car. But I
No, but
just, like,
everybody had been sleuthing to see who it was and it happened right before it was New Year's Eve, right? Or no, right before New Year's
it was
Eve?
the 30th. Yes, it was December 30th.
Because I remember people, I mean, we sleuthed it, and like y'all think the Blake Lively Baldoni thing went hard when that dropped, how, the sleuths were out and nobody was sleeping. When this came out, I mean, I know we were sleuthing, like everything from zooming in on the video, trying to track down who the people were, trying to track down their social medias, sifting through the girls' social medias. Like, we were shocked when it was just some random, because there was, and you know what, that is the downside of citizen sleuths, is that sometimes, there are people, and people still are talking about Dylan and the other roommate Bethany and the friends that came over, because everyone starts sleuthing everybody, and it is dangerous. So there's got to be a line in between being a helpful sleuth and starting to attack people. But I remember that it was crazy when they finally got him. So yeah, that's why everybody was watching. It was like,
Yeah.
let me.
And before that, and so a lot of people don't know this, but, like, when he was caught so they followed him to Pennsylvania, and then they, went through the trash, they got the DNA, and they're like, we got him, or the dad's DNA, but they're like, okay, we got him now. They did a raid on the house, but they, like, in the middle of the night, and it was like, I don't know, like 50 agents or something, like, came, and they broke through the doors and the windows. I mean, this wasn't just, like, a little arrest. This was like a huge, crazy thing. And it barely got reported on because the gag order went into effect, like, that day that it came out in the news. So that was my post, or one of the slides before, but it's fine because, like, we're basically at the end anyways. But it was just that, and the day that they did that raid and they had brought him into the station, they took his BK's DNA then, like, right there. But a lot of people didn't know that, because that after that officer made that statement to the whatever outlet it was, the gag order went in place. And so then no one involved in the case could speak about it anymore. And so, like, that's the only confirmation there was at that time. And it just, like, goes to show, like, the lack of information that came out with the.
Before the conclusion, though, let me take that slide down, because I did miss this one here. Let me remove that one from the stage. Hold on.
She said, why did they need so many to go? It was the holidays. They had, like, the family there. It was, like, in the middle of Pennsylvania. They didn't know how dangerous, like, he was, even though they had followed him, in the car all the way, across the country.
Oh, and Christina, you said, sorry, my bad, CJ. No, you were fine. You were fine. Because I didn't want it to come off as I was trying to, like, put out conspiracies of, like, what it could have been, but I wanted to go over all the conspiracies that the prosecutor was alluding to, that people should stop digging into. Because he said, all these conspiracies need to stop. And I honestly thought that some of them had legs, where, it was more trying to hold a mirror to the town. And so that's why this last slide that I missed, that you had put before the conclusion, it says U of I was recently trying to buy the University of Phoenix in February of 2023. It says at the same time that the Kohberger hearings began, and the deal just fell apart last month. So
Yeah, it was a
DFJ just brought
$685
this to my attention. Yeah.
million deal, and apparently was supposed to bring in like $10 million a month. That's what like the proposal was. But it was so contentious, and of course, who was pushing for it? The president of the University of Idaho, this crazy guy, and it was just like a huge deal. And this murder like messed up his plans, you know.
Oh, she said, I really had no idea that MK Ultra had come up. I was just cracking a joke. Since everyone seems to blame it on crazy things. But I mean, and Angela brings a close. So I think I'm going to do a conspiracies episode just to debunk and see what has legs or whatever. But because she says in the Karen Reed case, the guilty people sold their house and redid the flooring. And so, you know, there's a lot of people who think like, what were they trying to get rid of in that house? I mean, it was a party house. Like, was there other stuff? I mean, I want to go through the conspiracy theories and just see if there's anything left, since it's going to be over anyway. Like, let's just see what's there, because I honestly stayed away from a lot of that stuff because I was waiting for the trial. So I was like, all that'll come out in the trial. Ooh, conspiracy episode, Khaleesi. Even if it's just us, but yeah, I just want to like debunk them and be like, okay, well, no, this is probably not real, or this, you know, whatever. But I was thinking everything was going to come out in the trial. It was like, in the trial, we'll get to see what law enforcement did, how exactly they obtained the evidence, which DNA evidence they cross-reference. Because remember, they found other, they found like, was it a bloody glove or something? Or am I tripping that there was blood on it? Was it just a glove?
No, the blood was on the sheath of the knife sheath, I think, or the print.
Everyone's like, yes. What was that? So it was just the glove they found outside. It was just DNA on a glove, right?
Yeah. And the print on the button of the knife sheath. But like there was so much more. I don't know if you looked at any of the files, but like they had his Amazon history, that he had bought like the K-bar on the like Amazon. I mean, the knife, like
That's
it
the
was just
theory that they're Manchurian Candidate. They were thinking that he was some kind of study group from Pullman, because Pullman University was doing a behavioral study.
but
And
this
that
guy
he may
had
have been.
issues going back before he even went to college. So he's just a sicko. And I mean,
And one of the things I just found out was that both him and Luigi Mangione saw snow. So I just found that out yesterday. I was like, I wonder if
that's
it's something to
interesting.
do with people that see snow that become psychopaths. I don't know.
I don't know. That is
Allegedly, 'cause
strange.
obviously Luigi is still innocent until proven guilty. But if the glove don't fit, you must have quit, OJ. So yeah, that university being, you know, it's messing with their money, it seems like. So why would they want another, you know, months long trial? So what, it would end in like October? They don't want a trial during school. I mean, yes, wasn't it like, how far away from U of I was it now? How many hours? Do you know?
I think it was like at least 3 or 6.
Yeah, Khaleesi, he was in the criminal program. And they were getting funding for a behavioral surveillance study. Yeah, find out how far away it was, but still, right? It wasn't far enough away to where the town wasn't going to be a
Yeah,
bus.
it's like almost 6 hours.
So 6 hours away. So it is far away, but at the same time, people know that it's happening, and it's probably going to be on the news and stuff like that, right? So I think it's still like, do you think that it still affected the university and like the enrollment there and stuff like that? Do you think that was still currently affecting the university?
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to tell because this was like, you know, right after COVID, you know, a lot. And that's kind of why they wanted this University of Phoenix deal, was to get more people, like to capture like the online students or whatever.
Oh, to like move the online students into.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't think they really lost like that. I mean, like you said, there was a lot of people coming there. I mean, they had to house like all the investigators and media, and I don't know. I just think this president is crazy, and I think that they have a lot of sway, and they just wanted it to go away. They're like,
What do you think that a full trial would have exposed something about the house or the investigation or the university's role?
I don't think about the house. I think I think
It would have
honestly,
exposed that the president used to live there and his parents got divorced.
well, that came out because he had wrote a book about it. This guy is crazy.
Well, I gotta look into the book for the next episode. DFJ, are you down to do the next episode with me?
Well, I'm like not a good conspiracy person. I always try to like disprove conspiracies because in my
Well, there
in
you
my
go. You can
in my
do-
experience, everything's usually like, I mean, but then again, look at Van Zandt. I was the one. I don't know if anyone here is following Van Zandt and Blake Lively, but like
yeah,
I'm the one.
yeah, everyone here's following Baldoni.
I'm just like it has to be a clerical error because this would be too insane to not be. And then of course it looks like maybe it's not a clerical error, but I just have never seen anything like it. But I just try usually.
You thought Van Zandt was a conspiracy theory at first?
No, I thought it was a clerical error.
Oh, okay.
I was the one saying this has to be a filing error because they have to file every 2 years. And there was a filing in 2019, 21, 23, 25, so it made sense. And I was like, some idiot or whatever must have just filed this in the wrong state. But it wasn't. There's like literally 2 Van Zandts. And it's just, but that's not like where I go first. I always go to the most like logical,
Angel saying, what is snow? Snow is when you see static when you're looking, like instead of just being able to see, you see like like when a television
they call it like floaters.
Snow show, or no, it's Candy. No, snow is just like when you see a TV with static on it, and that's what you see. You just see like static. So it's like a snowed, like
some people say they have like floaters in their eyes,
blurred. But he actually saw snow. He actually saw like static. He couldn't see through it. It wasn't like, which is weird because I'm like, how did he like drive and get a license and stuff? But maybe he stopped seeing it in later years. I'm not sure. But so basically our conclusion for today is that there were initial missteps by local law enforcement in the university that we're sure didn't want to get revealed in trial. And that's where I'm at as well. That, part of it was they wanted to avoid a trial to bring more heat to their town. The goal always seems to be prioritizing institutional interests over transparency or justice. And from the very beginning, the Goncalveses were the ones who pointed that out, that they were more worried about getting the kids back in school. They were worried about, because it was going to be the start of the school year right before they had caught him, right? It was the start of the new school year because they caught him in December.
New semester, yeah.
Or the new semester. And then because she was graduating that year. So, some of these people were, I think Kaylee
was graduating a semester early. Yeah. So like it was, most people normally graduate in spring. And so this was like right at the end of like winter break.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was caught right after Christmas.
So she's saying the facts will come out. So eventually they will come out. I know that some of it will be unsealed and stuff, but is there a case where some of the stuff won't come out, like where they can keep it under seal and stuff like that?
Well, obviously like the autopsy photos and whatever, like all of that, is going to be sealed. But I think for the most part, like we should be able to see like everything I think that they would have presented, besides like, I don't think that we
won't know why he did it. Like he's going to take that. And I honestly hope that they put in that plea deal, because this plea deal, we don't know exactly what's in it except for what was given to the media, which is that he's going to plead guilty for 4 consecutive life sentences for each of the 4 victims, the 10 years for burglary, which I'm like, okay, the burglary, whatever. I don't know.
Well, that's interesting. So he probably took trophies, right?
Yeah, because if for a burglary, you would think that something was taken. Yeah. It just doesn't seem fair, and it doesn't. That's where I'm at too. I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't seem fair. But I wish they would have gotten more out of him, because if it was really him wanting the plea deal, I feel like they should have gotten which is what I was trying to say, was the book deals, something in there saying like you cannot get a book deal, you cannot monetize your story.
Usually they will say that.
Okay.
I can't imagine in this case that they would not say that.
For them too. Yesterday I felt really, really bad because they really wanted to know. They wanted to know the details, and I know some people think that's like, not like, again, I don't know what a family goes through in their grief and stuff, but for them, you can see the difference between them and the Chapins, where the Chapins preferred not to know, and they really, really wanted to know. They wanted to be there every day. They wanted to face him. For them, that's what closure looked like. Whereas for the Chapins, closure looked like, him being, they had already probably forgotten about Bryan Kohberger, because she had said that.
I think that they couldn't even, like, I just think that they couldn't even go there because they still had their other, the other two triplets or the other two siblings. And
Felicia's right. She's saying too many questions. Were there other victims in addition to Buddy? Because there was a point in time where they were interviewing, and I have to go back and remember this, but they were interviewing, where did he live before Pullman? Pennsylvania? There was a woman who was missing in Pennsylvania. Remember that story? Where
yeah,
they did
also,
call a grand jury in Pennsylvania, and we never found out what that grand jury was convened for.
well, and also wasn't he just like,
Yeah, Khaleesi, they do. You're right.
yeah, wasn't he just in trouble at his work for his TA position for being inappropriate or something with another female? And so, and I
That's
think
what I always wondered. Like, did he come into contact with them? I don't know. I just feel like there's so many unanswered questions. Like,
and I think that's what set him off.
Because I feel like could we warn, college age kids, like, okay, this is the signs you need to look out for? Or was it just really like that random? Where was it? I wonder. Also, it was something that he followed him on Instagram, right?
There's like 2 psychiatrists in his family. I think, isn't it like his mom and one of his sisters? And I'm just like, how did you? I don't believe that they didn't see any red flags. I mean, whatever.
We don't know if the university covered anything up. I mean, for as far as we know, the only thing that the university was worried about was to hurry it up type of thing. They didn't want it to be big headlines. Like, you have to imagine Moscow is a small town, and this was like worldwide. I mean, this is, I don't know. There was Facebook groups, there was Reddit groups, there was, web sleuths, there was TikToks, there was all kinds of stuff on it. Like, this went way more than viral. So I think that they were just trying to, make it go away. And, that's what it seems like here. And I don't know if the university had any role in this plea deal, because obviously it seems like the defense is the one who came and that the prosecution is the one who accepted it. So it could just be that he had a guilty conscience and he wanted to plead guilty to avoid pain for the family. And
No.
It could be.
I don't think he had a guilty conscience. Honest to God, I think.
Why do you think that the defense approached him? Like, do you think it was Ann Taylor?
I think because a defense attorney in a death penalty case, their one job is to make sure their client doesn't get the death penalty, and that's the one thing that they will try to do. And with this case, I just think there was too much evidence, and they're like, "You're going to get the death penalty," and so they're like, "So you can plea and do life, or you can risk this at trial, but like nothing's going to go your way." And I just think that's what they had to do. Like, that was the best she could do for her client, and I think he had to take it. Like, he doesn't want to face the firing squad.
I mean, yeah, but I would think that if he was that demented, he'd be like, "Bring it on." I don't know.
Yeah, well,
that might have been his limit. I don't know.
I think the death. I think it might have been. I think it might have been his limit, and I think he gets a little more control this way, because he can't control, like in the trial, how things go. But this way, it was his choice, and he doesn't have to deal with all of it.
All right. Well, do we have any more questions in the chat?
Obviously, he made mistakes. That's how he got caught. I'm sure he doesn't want that coming out. He'd rather just have the allure of people thinking, "Oh,
he almost got away with it."
Yeah.
And that's what worries me, because you see people like, Ted Bundy, and it's a fact that people are obsessed with true crime. And that's what worries me, is that I hope that he doesn't get to tell his story and monetize it and get interviews and become get notoriety over it.
Put that in your email.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. We was live, huh? Let me pull up, hold on. Let me pull up my bookmarks. I think I had one of did I bookmark it? I'm not sure if I did.
Yeah, I have it. I'll add it to the end of the slide.
Okay. But some of the other cases, really quick before we wrap up. We're supposed to do an hour. We're going on 2 hours, but this is one of the cases. Hold on. that I'm going to so yeah, everybody, just a reminder, please send that email. I know it's late when we're getting off this chat, but send this email. Let me so I'm starting a new community. So if anybody who's on here right now, let me go to my communities. Hold on. Sorry, I'm just let me remove this and add this. So it's called Objection Crime Chatter. And the cases that we're going to be covering are the Bryan Kohberger plea. So we're not gonna we're gonna cover some more of this until the very end. Shayna Gardner, she is the Stamping Up heiress who murdered her husband. I don't know if this came up on the slide. Yeah. So we're gonna be her trial is gonna be in October, and this is a really interesting case. So I don't know if any of y'all follow true crime that are here, but this is gonna be what's gonna be on Objection Crime Chatter. So we're gonna follow the Stamping Up Harris, Shayna Gardner, and her estranged husband Mario Fernandez are accused of plotting to have her ex-husband Jared Brightigan killed in 2022. And so they're barely gonna go to court. Oh, Missy, your daughter wants to send an email too. Thank you.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so we're gonna be covering that case, and then we're gonna be covering, where is the other one? Sorry, guys. We're gonna be covering, Barry Morphew. So on Mother's Day, he unalived his, wife, and the thing with this is he got away with it. They went to pre-trial, and they didn't have enough, and they didn't have a body, and so they decided to, instead of, going through with the hearing, they stopped the hearing midway and let him go. And then a year and a half later, they find the body, and then now they just arrested him for the third time. So this case is pretty crazy too. It's the Barry Morphew case. And and then we're going to be going into the Larry Milletti case and the Corey Richens case, which are also a wife and a so these were the four cases that I was following, including Karen Reed, which just concluded. But I feel like I should just follow these through because when I was following true crime, I haven't followed any new cases because now I'm just into the celebrity legal stuff. Um, but when I was following it, so I'm gonna just um, go through. Yeah, sounds interesting. Yeah, the one with Larry Milletti, he was using spell casting and stuff. That one is, and then Corey Richens, she unalived her husband and then wrote a book about it. She was LDS, um, very religious, and she wrote a children's book called Daddy Goes to Heaven. And the whole time she had unalived her husband with enough fentanyl to get rid of like 40 horses or something. It's a crazy, crazy trial. So we're gonna be doing that. If you follow true crime and you want to continue to get updates on the Bryan Kohberger plea, I'm gonna be updating this tonight with all the stuff about the families. I'm gonna put the email address for the Kohberger case at ada.idcourts.gov. Do I still have that one up? Did you put it on your on the slide?
Which one?
There it is. Okay. Let me just share the slide. There it is. So there it is. It's Kohberger case at ada.idcourts.gov. So with that chat, let me just check the comments. I will have Laura get me into the group. They just got me back on X like 2 weeks ago. What happened to your ex? I'll take rich people unaliving over these poor babies. Yeah,
Oh,
and I mean, these are really, really sad. The Jared Brightigan one gets really, really sad. He had 2 kids that the stepmom is no longer able to see, and but yeah, these kids, it really hit me. It really, really hit me. These kids, because they all have super bright futures, and not to say that these other people didn't, because it's also tragic. Thanks, CJ. Oh, thank you guys for showing up. Rich biatches murdering their husband. Yeah, yeah. Shayna Gardner and Corey Richens were both. Actually, Corey Richens was stealing money from her rich husband, and she got caught, and that's what ended up happening. She was funneling money, but they're just cases that I was following that I feel like they all have different charities. The Jared Brightigan, his wife that he left, because basically he had remarried. she started something called Bexley's Box that I supported. And so a lot of these cases that I'm following have different causes that they ended up making through the tragedy that I feel like we can highlight through learning about it. So it's like true crime and philanthropy. Okay, that's what y'all are signing up for. My son is about to go to college and it's scary. Oh, Khaleesi, this is great. Thank you, chat too. Thank you guys. Teach him to lock his doors. Yeah. You know what? And it's, just it's really hard. It's really hard to read these stories and then, have someone going off to college and stuff to trust, because that's what those families did. They trusted that their children were going to be safe, and you just never know when tragedy is going to strike. So justice for Ethan, Madison, Kaylee, and Zaina. And in the description, I'm going to link all the different charities that they have. And so, yes, please come back after the live to leave a comment for the algorithm if you can. DFJ, I can't say enough great things about you. Thank you so much for helping me put the show together.
Oh, you're awesome. Thank you.
I hope we got through all the slides and everything. And we will see you guys on the next one. Until then, this was Objection Crime Chatter, and we'll see you guys later. Thanks.